Breaking news! The Denver Broncos are having an incredible time, especially now in the middle of the AFC playoffs. And yes, my friends, the stakes couldn't be higher. Now I need to share something that will definitely get you excited, just like I was. I'm very happy with the progress of our team, and also happy with the performance of Coach Sean Payton. Before continuing, make sure you've already hit the like button, but only do so if you've been a Broncos fan for over 14 years. There are people here who were at the first game. It's great to see fans of all ages. If you're happy with the Denver Broncos in the playoffs, write something like this: Go Broncos! Let's go to the Super Bowl, I believe. To start, the bye week brought a mix of emotions. The good news? The Los Angeles Chargers suffered a loss, which is a big boost for Denver's position in the playoffs. With a three-way tie in the AFC wildcard race between the Broncos, Chargers, and Baltimore Ravens, all 8-5, every result matters. But here's where it gets tricky. The Broncos have already lost head-to-head matches to Baltimore and Los Angeles this season, meaning the tiebreakers won't be in their favor. That puts even more importance on the upcoming games. The Broncos' remaining schedule is no walk in the park. They face the Indianapolis Colts, who are also fresh off their bye, followed by a Thursday night game against the Chargers in Los Angeles. After that, it's a tough matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, who will have less rest than Denver, giving the Broncos a slight edge. Finally, they'll close out the regular season against the Kansas City Chiefs, the current top seed in the AFC. Speaking of the Colts, this Sunday's game is shaping up to be a pivotal moment in Denver's playoff quest. According to the New York Times playoff predictor, a win against Indianapolis would boost the Broncos' playoff chances to 87%. But here's the catch: a loss would drop their chances all the way down to 40%. This is because the Colts' remaining schedule, featuring the Titans, Giants, and Jaguars, is considerably easier than Denver's gauntlet of playoff contenders. In short, the Broncos can't afford to let this one slip away. However, the team isn't entering this stretch without challenges. The most concerning news from the bye week is the injury update on cornerback Riley Moss. After missing several weeks already, it appears unlikely that he'll be ready to return for Sunday's game against the Colts or the quick turnaround against the Chargers. The earliest realistic return could be Week 17 against the Bengals, but even that timeline feels uncertain. Without Moss, the Broncos' secondary has been exposed, particularly Levi Wallace, who struggled mightily against the Cleveland Browns 2 weeks ago, allowing 164 yards and a touchdown. Opposing teams are likely to target that weakness, and the Colts receiving core, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, and Michael Pittman Jr. is more than capable of exploiting it if given the chance. On the offensive side of the ball, the Broncos' ground game has shown promise, with Jaleel McLaughlin stepping up as a reliable presence in the backfield. Over the last few weeks, he's emerged as the team's leading rusher, bringing much-needed consistency to a unit that has struggled with continuity all season. Still, there's lingering concern about whether the Broncos can close out games on the ground when it matters most. In tight playoff scenarios, running the ball effectively to control the clock could be the difference between advancing and going home. But it's not just about the XS and OS. There's a psychological element at play here. The Broncos have been on a roll, and while the bye week provided rest, it may have interrupted their momentum. Running back Jaleel McLaughlin even admitted that stepping away from the game while the team was playing so well was tough. Yet, there's also hope that this brief pause allowed the team to focus on areas for improvement, particularly in closing out games. As we look at the other wild card contenders, the Chargers and Ravens schedules reveal both opportunities and threats. The Chargers face tough opponents like the Buccaneers and Broncos, but close out the season against weaker teams such as the Patriots and Raiders. Meanwhile, the Ravens have a more balanced slate with games against the Giants, Steelers, Texans, and Browns. Both teams have paths to success, which means Denver must stay sharp and take care of business on their end. So, Broncos country, it's crunch time. What do you think about Denver's chances as we enter the final stretch? Can the Broncos overcome their tough schedule, or will the injuries and playoff competition prove too much? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going as we gear up for Sunday's clash with the Colts. Stay tuned, because every snap from here on out will shape the Broncos' playoff destiny. Another critical factor in the Broncos' playoff push is their potential seeding and first-round matchup should they make it to the postseason. Right now, Denver is projected to face the Buffalo Bills if they land in the 7th seed. However, there's a chance they could move up to the 6th seed, depending on how other teams perform down the stretch. If that happens, they would likely face the Baltimore Ravens on the road, a rematch of a game that didn't go well for Denver earlier in the season. Here's the kicker: the Broncos need to be strategic about their preferences. If you ask me, facing the Ravens on the road is less appealing than taking on a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Despite their strong record, the Steelers haven't been as dominant, and a matchup against them could offer Denver a better chance to advance. Of course, the ideal scenario would be to face the Houston Texans, but jumping to the 5th seed seems out of reach unless a series of unlikely results fall in Denver's favor. The conversation about potential playoff opponents raises an important point about the Broncos' identity as a team. They've shown flashes of brilliance this season, with standout performances on both sides of the ball, but consistency has been a challenge. Against high-caliber teams like the Ravens or Bills, any weaknesses, whether in pass coverage, run defense, or offensive execution, will be magnified. That's why this week's game against the Colts feels like more than just a regular season matchup. It's a litmus test for how this team will fare under playoff-level pressure. Speaking of the Colts, their roster presents some intriguing challenges for Denver. While their wide receivers have been somewhat underrated, they have the talent to exploit Denver's banged-up secondary. The big question is whether Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson can deliver accurate throws under pressure. The Broncos' pass rush will need to step up to ensure he doesn't have the time to find his rhythm. On the other side of the ball, Denver's offensive line will face a tough test against Indianapolis' defensive front. Winning the battle in the trenches could go a long way toward determining the outcome of this game. While the on-field matchups are important, it's also worth noting the off-field dynamics that could influence Sunday's game. The Colts have had an easier schedule leading up to this point, and their confidence is likely high. Meanwhile, Denver has faced stiffer competition, which could mean they're more battle-tested or perhaps more worn down. How each team handles the mental aspect of this game could make all the difference. Let's not forget the role of coaching in this equation. Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph has his work cut out for him, especially with the injuries in the secondary. How he schemes to cover for Riley Moss's absence and mitigate Levi Wallace's struggles will be a focal point. On the offensive side, the coaching staff must find creative ways to keep the Colts defense off balance, whether through play action, quick passes, or utilizing Jaleel McLaughlin's explosiveness in the run game. As we head into this crucial stretch, Broncos fans should also keep an eye on potential roster moves. The team recently worked out free agent cornerback Jerry Jacobs, who started 12 games for the Detroit Lions last year. While it doesn't appear that Denver plans to sign him at this time, the fact that they're exploring options suggests concern about their depth in the secondary. If Moss's recovery timeline is extended further, don't be surprised if the Broncos revisit the idea of bringing in additional help. Looking at the bigger picture, this weekend's game is more than just a chance to improve the record. It's an opportunity for the Broncos to make a statement to themselves, to their opponents, and to the rest of the league. A win would not only keep them in the playoff hunt, but also send a message that this team is resilient and ready to compete against the best. A loss, on the other hand, could spark serious questions about whether they're capable of making a deep playoff run, even if they do manage to sneak into the postseason. So, Broncos country, as we gear up for this high-stakes showdown against the Colts, the question remains, do you believe in this team? Can Denver rise to the occasion and keep their playoff hopes alive? Or will the injuries, tough schedule, and mounting pressure prove too much to overcome? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to join us this Sunday for our live watch party. Together, we'll break down every play, cheer for every touchdown, and see just how far this team can go.